Welcome back, everybody. I hope everybody had a healthy and happy off season. Me and Anthony are out today. We're setting up some stands, getting pretty excited about the season. But the reason why I made this video, I always see comments on social media and sometimes in our comments about people that they're not seeing deer. It's not like it used to be, not having much success. People are baiting deer, that's how they're killing them. So I just kind of wanted to give our opinion of some of the tips that we use that seem to be successful for us. And I'm not being all encompassing, but I got about 7 tips that I think are a good starting point for people that we find successful. I think there's a lot of guys from my generation. If I could pick on my generation, I was a teenager in the 80s. And the hunting has totally changed from that time. You know, back then there was over 1 million hunters. The deer were probably well overpopulated. The woods was overbrowsed. Most of the deer that were killed were 1.5 years old. I think it was like 80 or 90% of the deer. So things have changed quite a bit. And I think a lot of guys are still hunting from that old perspective of, I can just go out in the woods, sit down somewhere, maybe not too far from a road, and I can just get a good vantage point, and sooner or later deer is going to come my way. Well, it doesn't really work like that anymore. You still can kill deer that way, but hunting has changed. You have to put a little bit more into it. I think the first thing you'd want to do is collect data. You know, that can be just like traditional scouting where you got time to go out and look around and document things, but I don't know, in today's busy world, I know a lot of people don't have the time to just go out and just dedicate specifically for scouting. So what I suggest is you just collect data as you go. So whether you're hunting or maybe shed hunting, taking a walk through the woods, whatever, whenever you come across something, document it. And what's good is what the boys really use. Anthony and John are better at with this than me, is using Onyx. They document everything on it. They might find a good creek crossing, they'll mark it. A well-beat trail, mark it. Where we found shed antlers, they'll mark it. Rubs, where we've killed deer, where we have our stands, on and on. And you'll be surprised how much you'll see. All those dots will start making a story for you, and you can plan appropriately on how to attack that, where the deer movement might be. Obviously you want to look for where bedding areas are and where, you know, the food sources are. So that's number 1. I should also add too, you don't have to use Onyx if you're not tech savvy. Well, you could use Google Maps, anything to document plot points on. If you have to use a topo map, an old school topo map, and start marking, doing notes, doing like a journal, maybe using like a fly fisherman technique where they document, you know, what creek they were at, what day, what hatches were coming off, what was successful, what wasn't. Just something like that. Document your information, because most likely you're going to forget it if you don't. Tip number 2, once you identify your bedding areas, stay out of them. Not too much good's going to come from going in a bedding area. Deer are going to be bedded down. They're going to be using their eyesight, their smell, and their vision, and they're going to detect you. So just trying to go in there and hunt them, it's not worth it. Let them have that area and find a spot that you can intercept them away from a bedding area. Number 3 is to hunt travel corridors and escape routes. And I mean travel corridors mainly for the bow season, because you're going to be getting deer on natural movement back and forth from a food source to a bedding area. You want to identify a good spot to put a stand downwind of that travel corridor. And then an escape route, I'm mainly referring to a gun season, where the deer are most likely going to be pressured. It's not quite as bad as what it used to be back in the old days with what I was talking about. But deer, most likely, the big bucks at some point are going to feel pressure from hunters, especially if you're hunting public land. That's mainly what I'm referring to here, is public land. you want to set yourself up in a best position to where you're going to use other hunter movement to your advantage, and I'll talk maybe some more on that. Tip number 4 is to use topography and edge. Deer are going to follow the natural contours of the land, so it's just real easy to look on a topo map, look on Onyx, and decide and look to see where a stand might be, where the deer might be flowing to. And also with that, you want to keep in mind edge as well. If you got an area for maybe there's a laurel edge to a hardwood edge, or down a little bit further to my right here is actually a really good example that is a hemlock stand that comes right out and then it hits hardwood, so it's really defined. You can really see that edge, and deer usually there's a good trail right along that area, which maybe I can show you, get a little picture of it. So use topography and edge to your advantage. Here's a really good example of edge. We got a kind of an old growth hemlock stand down here that you get down toward the creek, and then it transitions right here to go into hardwoods, oak, maples, cherry. A deer love this spot right here. There's a trail right down in here that they run really hard. We're setting up a stand location right now. This is going to be a gun location, and we're mainly keeping John in mind for this. John's coming back from Montana this year, so we're going to try to set him up nicely. I'm going to go to a sample map, which is, it's not going to be the same area that I'm hunting. We're not going to give that up, but it's an area that's very familiar, or really pretty much the same as this, with a lot of the key points, the last 4 points that are all incorporated into why we chose this stand location here. So let me move to that. The deer move primarily from the west to east in this area. They come from the ag fields, they get pressure from farmers and from private hunters. There's also a public access point in the cut, which hunters come through, and they also push deer to the cover and bedding area as well. There's hunter pressure from the north. The wind is predominantly goes to the south and to the southeast. We swing in from the east and come down to a stand location located on the map. We're hoping to intercept deer coming out of the southern end of the cover and bedding area. So you can see in this example, we have collected data to identify where the deer are going to be, or hopefully are going to be. We're trying to stay out of that cover and bedding area. We're trying to cover an escape route, and we're using topography and edge as well. Will this plan work? Nothing's guaranteed, but it's a good plan. Tip number 5, and I'm mainly referring to bow season with this one. Don't overhunt your stands. If you have, for instance, a really good rut stand, a lot of activity in that sweet spot of mid-November, don't go in there in October and put a bunch of human scent down, spooking deer, bumping deer. Wait for that right spot and use your stand accordingly. Number 6, and this is a big one for me, don't overlook hunting in the late morning and early afternoon hours. A lot of guys give up on their stands, go back to camp, go back to the truck. There are deer, especially big bucks, that will move at that time in the rut. They'll sleep in the early morning hours. They'll be tired from chasing does during the night. They will get up in those late morning, early afternoon hours. So don't forget that. And I'll show you some trail cam pictures of that, of a lot of deer that are moving in those times. The last tip I could give you is to be adaptable and also think outside of the box, especially during the rut. That's when bucks are going to be at their weakest point. They're going to be doing things they normally don't do. If you see one become predictable, maybe he's trailing a doe and doing something repeatable, or the scent checking, a thicket, going back and forth, and you see them doing that over and over again, make a move, go after them, and go for that buck. I hope these tips will help you. They have helped me and the boys in the past, and I hope you all kill the buck of a lifetime this year.